Ladies and gentlemen, good artists copy. Great artists steal. But what does it mean to steal in the world of creativity? The idea of stealing in creativity is often misunderstood. People think of theft as a dishonest act, a shortcut, or even a form of cheating. But in the world of art, music, literature, and even business, stealing is not just necessary, it is inevitable. Every creator, no matter how original they seem, stands on the shoulders of those who came before them. The difference between a mere imitator and a true artist lies in how they steal. To steal with purpose means to take inspiration not as an end, but as a beginning. It is not mindless copying, but rather a deep process of absorption, transformation, and personal reinvention. The best creators understand that nothing comes from a vacuum. Every innovation, every breakthrough, every so-called original idea is the result of countless influences. When we see a painting that moves us, read a book that changes the way we think, or hear a song that lingers in our minds, we are witnessing the echoes of past ideas, reshaped into something new. But taking influence alone is not enough. If all we do is repeat what has already been done, we are not creating, we are simply replicating. True theft in art requires purpose, vision, and a willingness to transform what we take into something that belongs to us. To steal with purpose, one must first learn to see. Many people admire great works, but they do not truly study them. They look at a painting and think it's beautiful, but they never ask, why does this work? What choices did the artist make? How can I use this in my own way? The first step to purposeful theft is deep observation. This means breaking apart the things that inspire us, understanding their mechanics, and identifying the elements that resonate on a personal level. It is not enough to love a piece of work, we must dissect it, analyze it, and figure out how it achieves its impact. However, even this is not enough. Stealing with purpose means not only understanding what makes something great, but also filtering it through one's own experience, taste, and ideas. It requires a level of self-awareness. If an artist simply mimics another's brushstrokes, if a writer copies another's sentence structures, if a musician mirrors another's chords, without adding something of their own, the work remains empty. The key is to blend influences in a way that makes them unrecognizable, transformed into something fresh. A good thief does not take just one idea, they take many, from many different places, and fuse them together. The best artists are like curators, gathering fragments from different sources, rearranging them, and constructing something that feels both familiar and entirely new. There is also a difference between stealing and being swallowed by an influence. It is easy to fall into the trap of idolizing a particular artist or movement so much that one's own work becomes a mere shadow of it. Purposeful theft requires a kind of defiance, a refusal to be completely consumed by admiration. The goal is not to become the next version of a great artist, but to take what they have done and push it in a different direction. Many of the most celebrated creators in history did exactly this. They began by imitating their heroes, but at some point they broke away, bending the rules, distorting the traditions, and making something that carried the DNA of their inspirations, but stood apart as their own. Stealing with purpose is also an ongoing process. It is not a single act, but a lifelong practice. The best creators are never satisfied with a single influence. They constantly seek new sources, new perspectives, and new ideas to steal from. This prevents stagnation. A writer who only reads one kind of book will start to sound like every other writer in that genre. A musician who only listens to one style will never develop a truly distinctive voice. The more diverse the influences, the more unique the work becomes. Purposeful theft is about expansion, taking from unexpected places, merging unlikely elements, and continually evolving. Finally, there is an ethical dimension to stealing with purpose. While all art is built on influence, there is a difference between theft that leads to innovation and theft that exploits. Stealing with purpose means respecting the work of others while using it as a foundation to build upon. It means acknowledging influence without being trapped by it. It is about contributing to the ongoing creative conversation, not just repeating what has already been said. When done correctly, purposeful theft does not diminish the original, it elevates it, adding new layers of meaning and ensuring that creativity continues to grow rather than remain static. In the end, stealing with purpose is about transformation. It is about taking what inspires us and making it unrecognizable through our own personal lens. It is about absorbing the best of what exists while having the courage to reshape it into something that is distinctly ours. Creativity is often seen as a spark, a fleeting moment of inspiration that arrives like lightning. Many believe that the best artists, writers, musicians, and innovators are simply gifted, born with an ability to produce brilliance effortlessly. But this is a myth. Inspiration is unreliable. Creativity does not come when it is convenient. The most accomplished individuals in any field are not just talented, they are disciplined. They do not wait for motivation to strike, they show up every day, whether they feel like it or not. To create at a high level, discipline must become second nature. It must be ingrained into daily life, treated with the same consistency as breathing. The artist who paints only when inspired will never finish a masterpiece. The writer who writes only when the mood is right will never complete a book. The musician who practices only when they feel like it will never master their craft. The difference between a hobbyist and a master is not talent, it is discipline. It is the ability to do the work, even when the work feels impossible. Discipline is a mindset, but it is also a habit. It is built through repetition, through showing up day after day, even when the results are frustrating. It is easy to work when things are going well, when progress is obvious, when there is a sense of excitement. But true discipline is measured in the difficult moments when inspiration fades, when doubt creeps in, when exhaustion takes over. The ones who succeed are those who push through, who create even when it feels pointless, who refine their craft even when progress is invisible. Discipline is not glamorous. It is often boring, frustrating, and exhausting. It requires saying no to distractions, no to excuses, no to the endless temptations that pull attention away from the work. It means rejecting comfort, embracing difficulty, and understanding that growth is not immediate. The greats in any field did not achieve mastery overnight. They worked in obscurity for years, grinding away at their craft when no one was watching. They put in the hours when it was thankless, when there was no recognition, no validation, no applause. They understood that every small, unnoticed effort was a step toward something greater. The disciplined creator does not wait for the perfect conditions. They do not wait until they feel ready, because readiness is an illusion. There will never be a perfect moment to start. There will always be reasons to delay, to procrastinate, to justify inaction. The disciplined person understands that action must come first. The act of sitting down and doing the work, of putting in the effort, even when it feels meaningless, is what eventually produces results. Discipline is also about endurance. It is about outlasting resistance, about training the mind to push past its limits. When the body is tired, when the mind is weary, when every part of the self wants to stop, discipline is the force that says, keep going. Many people give up too soon. They stop when they encounter difficulty, when progress slows, when they face rejection. But the disciplined individual understands that difficulty is not a signal to quit, it is a sign of progress. The struggle is proof that something is being built, that growth is happening beneath the surface, even if it is not yet visible. There is no shortcut to greatness. There is no secret formula, no magic technique that replaces the hard work of discipline. Those who produce extraordinary work do so because they have committed to the process. They do not seek quick rewards or instant success. They embrace the long, often brutal journey, understanding that every great achievement is built on a foundation of consistency. They are not deterred by failure. They do not see mistakes as a reason to stop, but as necessary steps toward improvement. Every failure, every setback, every rejection is a lesson, a refinement, a sharpening of skill and character. The most successful people in any discipline have routines, systems, and non-negotiable commitments to their craft. They do not rely on motivation because they know motivation is fleeting. Instead, they build structure into their lives, creating habits that ensure progress even on the hardest days. They set clear goals, break them down into manageable steps, and work relentlessly toward them. They do not allow emotions to dictate their effort. They know that whether they feel inspired or drained, excited or discouraged, the work must still be done. Discipline is not about perfection. It is not about producing flawless work every day. It is about showing up, about putting in effort, about refusing to let excuses take over. Some days the work will feel effortless, and some days it will feel impossible. But the disciplined creator understands that both days matter equally. They know that the breakthrough only comes to those who keep going long after others have stopped. Creation is often romanticized as an act of building something from nothing, but the truth is that it is just as much about destruction. To create something truly original, something with depth and meaning, one must be willing to tear things apart: ideas, structures, habits, even one's own work. This is not destruction for the sake of chaos, but destruction with intent, destruction that clears the way for something better. Growth, evolution, and true mastery require an ongoing willingness to dismantle, to break, to let go of what no longer serves the process. Too often, people cling to their creations, fearing that letting go means losing progress. A writer hesitates to delete paragraphs that no longer fit because of the time spent crafting them. A musician struggles to cut a section of a song, even when it weakens the whole. A painter hesitates to paint over an area that feels comfortable but doesn't serve the piece. The fear of wasted effort can trap creators in mediocrity. But nothing is truly wasted. Every failed experiment, every discarded idea, every erased line is part of the process. It is not a loss but a refinement, a necessary sacrifice in pursuit of something stronger. To create at a high level, one must become ruthless. Attachment is the enemy of progress. What worked once may not work forever. An idea that felt brilliant yesterday may no longer hold up today. The willingness to destroy is the mark of a true artist, one who understands that nothing is sacred, that every part of the work must be tested, questioned, and, if necessary, torn down. The best creators are not those who refuse to change, but those who embrace the discomfort of revision, who understand that destruction is an essential part of making something worthwhile. Creation is a cycle, not a single act. It is not about producing something perfect on the first attempt, but about shaping and breaking and reshaping until something powerful emerges. It is a process of constant revision, constant refinement. The first draft of a novel is never the final draft. The first version of a song is never the best version. The best ideas often come only after tearing down the weaker ones. The greatest works of art, the most innovative inventions, the most profound breakthroughs, none of them came fully formed. They emerged from destruction, from the willingness to dismantle and rebuild. Destruction is also a form of courage. It is easy to hold on to what feels safe, to avoid change, to preserve what has already been built. But real growth happens at the edge of discomfort, in the willingness to throw away what is comfortable in favor of something greater. It requires the ability to step back, to detach from the work, to ask, is this the best it can be? And if the answer is no, it means having the strength to tear it down, to start over, to keep pushing forward, even when it feels like starting from scratch. This process is not limited to art or creativity. It applies to everything: mindsets, beliefs, routines, even identities. People become trapped in old ways of thinking, in outdated beliefs, in habits that no longer serve them. But growth requires destruction. It requires breaking patterns, questioning assumptions, and tearing down the walls that limit potential. Those who refuse to destroy remain stagnant, repeating the same patterns, unable to evolve. Those who embrace destruction move forward, shedding what no longer serves them, making space for something new, something stronger. It is not an easy path. Destruction can be painful. It can feel like loss, like failure, like a step backward. But in reality, it is progress. It is an act of making space, of clearing away what is unnecessary so that something better can take its place. It is not a sign of weakness, but of strength. The strongest creators, the most visionary thinkers, are those who are willing to let go, to destroy what no longer fits, to risk breaking everything in order to build something truly great. Adaptation is the key to survival, not just in nature but in every creative and ambitious pursuit. The world is constantly changing, shifting in ways that are unpredictable, and those who refuse to adapt find themselves left behind. To adapt without apology means to embrace change fully, without hesitation or the need for external validation. It requires a mindset that is fluid, flexible, and unafraid to let go of past identities, methods, or beliefs in order to grow. The ones who thrive are those who see change not as a threat, but as an opportunity, an invitation to evolve, to refine and to reinvent. Too often, people cling to what has worked in the past, believing that consistency is a sign of strength. They fear that changing direction might be seen as weakness, as indecision, as proof that they were wrong before. But the strongest individuals, the most successful creators, and the most impactful leaders are those who refuse to be imprisoned by their own past. They do not ask for permission to change, they simply do it. They understand that what made sense yesterday may not make sense tomorrow, and they are willing to pivot when necessary. They do not waste energy defending outdated ideas or obsolete methods. They adjust, refine, and move forward without looking back. The ability to adapt is not just about survival, it is about mastery. Those who are unwilling to evolve remain stuck, repeating the same patterns, unable to break free from their own limitations. But those who embrace change without apology have no limits. They experiment. They take risks, they step into the unknown with confidence. They are not bound by the need to justify every shift they make because they understand that growth requires movement. They do not see adaptation as a betrayal of their past selves, but as a necessary step toward their future potential. Adapting without apology also means ignoring the fear of judgment. People often hesitate to change because they worry about how others will perceive them. They fear criticism, ridicule, or the possibility of being seen as inconsistent. But those who achieve great things do not shape their decisions around the opinions of others. They do not explain themselves to those who do not understand their vision. They do not shrink themselves to fit into expectations that no longer serve them. They adapt boldly, knowing that those who matter will recognize the necessity of change, and those who do not were never worth considering in the first place. Change is uncomfortable, and adaptation requires letting go of old identities, old habits, and even old successes. It is tempting to hold on to what is familiar, to stay within the boundaries of what has already worked. But doing so leads to stagnation. The most innovative minds are those that continually shed their old skins, that refuse to be defined by a single success or a single failure. They do not apologize for growing beyond what people expected of them. They do not feel the need to explain why they are no longer who they once were. They simply move forward, without hesitation, without fear. To adapt without apology means to remain in a state of constant evolution. It means understanding that nothing is permanent, not skills, not beliefs, not even passions. What feels important today may not matter tomorrow, and that is not a failure, it is a natural part of progress. The goal is not to cling to a fixed idea of who one is supposed to be, but to remain open to becoming something greater. The world belongs to those who are willing to shift, to adjust, to transform without regret. Adaptation is not a sign of weakness, it is the ultimate display of strength. Distraction is everywhere. In an age of endless opinions, notifications, comparisons, and criticism, it is easy to lose focus. The world is filled with noise, voices telling you what you should do, how you should think, who you should be. Everyone has an opinion, and most of them do not matter. To achieve anything meaningful, you must learn to ignore the noise. This is not just about avoiding external distractions, but also about silencing the inner doubts, fears, and insecurities that try to pull you away from your purpose. The most successful individuals in any field are not those who listen to every voice around them, but those who know how to shut them out. They understand that the world will always have something to say, that criticism is inevitable, that opinions will always exist. But they do not allow these things to dictate their actions. They do not waste energy arguing, justifying, or proving themselves to those who will never understand their vision. They focus on what truly matters: the work, the craft, the pursuit of something greater. Noise comes in many forms. Sometimes it is external, the endless stream of news, trends, and opinions that flood social media and conversations. It is the fear of missing out, the illusion that everyone else is doing more, achieving more, living better. It is the unsolicited advice from people who have never built anything themselves, telling you how to build. It is the criticism from those who have never risked anything, trying to make you doubt your own risks. If you listen to all of it, you will lose yourself. You will start to second-guess your instincts, adjust your path to please others, and ultimately dilute your vision. Then there is the internal noise, the voice inside that whispers doubts, that magnifies failures, that feeds insecurities. It tells you that you are not good enough, that you are not ready, that you will never make it. It replays past mistakes, makes you fear future ones, and convinces you to hesitate when you should act. This noise is just as dangerous as the external kind, if not more. It does not go away on its own. It must be silenced through action, through discipline, through the refusal to let fear control your decisions. Ignoring the noise does not mean being ignorant. It does not mean shutting out all feedback, all learning, all opportunities for growth. It means being selective. It means knowing which voices to trust and which to discard. Not every opinion is valuable. Not every piece of advice is worth considering. Some criticism is constructive, but much of it is not. It is projection, jealousy, misunderstanding, or distraction. The key is to filter out the meaningless and focus only on what truly helps you grow. The greatest creators, leaders, and thinkers in history did not waste time explaining themselves to those who doubted them. They did not let noise derail them from their purpose. They faced criticism, rejection, misunderstanding, and doubt, but they kept going. They understood that if they stopped to answer every critic, to satisfy every doubter, to explain every choice, they would never move forward. Instead, they let their work speak for itself. They stayed focused on what mattered, and in the end, it was their results, not their explanations, that proved them right. The ability to ignore the noise is a skill, and like any skill, it must be developed. It requires discipline to stay focused when distractions are constant. It requires confidence to trust your instincts when opinions try to sway you. It requires resilience to continue despite doubt, rejection, and failure. The ones who achieve the most are not necessarily the most talented or the most privileged. They are the ones who learn to block out what does not matter and relentlessly pursue what does. In a world that constantly pulls you in different directions, the ability to ignore the noise is one of the most valuable strengths you can develop. It is the difference between being lost in the crowd and standing apart. It is the difference between endless hesitation and decisive action. Those who learn to silence the distractions, the doubts, and the unnecessary opinions are the ones who truly create, truly achieve, and truly live on their own terms. Every person has a finite amount of time, a brief window to exist, to create, to influence the world in some way. The question is not whether you will leave a mark, but what kind of mark you will leave. Many go through life passively, following routines, conforming to expectations, never questioning whether they are truly shaping something meaningful. But those who refuse to be forgotten, those who leave something behind that outlasts them, are the ones who act with intention. They do not wait for permission, for validation, for the perfect moment. They make their mark through relentless action, through commitment, through the refusal to blend into the background. Leaving a mark does not mean seeking fame or chasing approval. It is not about how many people recognize your name or how widely your work is celebrated. It is about impact. It is about creating something that matters, something that shifts perspectives, something that makes a difference, even if only to a few. Some marks are loud, visible, undeniable, while others are subtle but just as powerful. A single book can change a life. A single idea can reshape an industry. A single act of courage can inspire generations. The scale is not what matters, the depth is. To leave a mark, you must first know what you stand for. Many drift through life without clarity, following trends, absorbing the expectations of others, never defining their own vision. But those who make a lasting impact have a sense of purpose that is unshakable. They do not change direction based on fleeting opinions. They do not dilute their work to fit into what is popular. They stay true to their vision, even when it is misunderstood, even when it is met with resistance. They create, they build, they push forward, not because the world asks them to, but because they must. Making a mark requires risk. It means stepping outside of comfort, embracing uncertainty, and being willing to fail. Many never leave a mark because they are afraid of criticism, of rejection, of the possibility that their efforts will not be enough. But those who create lasting impact understand that failure is inevitable. Every great work, every breakthrough, every movement that ever changed the world was met with doubt before it was met with acceptance. Those who leave a mark do not let fear decide their actions. They are willing to be wrong, to struggle, to stand alone if necessary, because they understand that nothing meaningful comes without resistance. Time is limited, and every moment spent hesitating, overanalyzing, or waiting for the perfect conditions is a moment lost. Those who leave a mark do not waste time dwelling on what they cannot control. They focus on what they can build, what they can change, what they can contribute. They understand that perfection is an illusion, that waiting until they feel completely ready is just another form of fear. They begin before they feel prepared. They take action when others are still thinking about it. They understand that the only way to create something that lasts is to start, to keep going, and to never stop refining, improving, and pushing forward. Making a mark is not about how long you are remembered, but about how deeply you impact the world while you are here. It is about creating something with meaning, something that matters, something that stands as proof that you were here, that you lived, that you created, that you contributed something unique. It is not about following a predetermined path, but about forging your own. It is not about waiting for opportunity, but about creating it. Those who leave a mark are not necessarily the ones with the most resources, the most talent, or the most connections. They are the ones with the most determination, the most resilience, the most relentless drive to do something that matters. In the end, leaving a mark is a choice. It is the decision to live fully, to create boldly, to take risks, to refuse to be passive. It is about making something that will last, not because the world demands it, but because something inside you refuses to settle for less. Leaving a mark is not about waiting for the right moment or seeking permission. It is about acting with purpose, creating without hesitation, and refusing to let your time slip away unnoticed. It is about understanding that your voice, your ideas, and your actions have the power to shape the world, whether in a big way or a small one. The question is not whether you will leave a mark, but whether it will be one of hesitation or one of boldness. In the end, it is not about being remembered by millions. It is about knowing that you used your time to build something real, something meaningful, something that proves you were here. So go forward, create fearlessly, and make your mark without apology, without hesitation, and without regret.